And today I will be presenting Robert Willis, who is the Vice President of Strategic Operations at Binary Defense. Robert Willis is a global cybersecurity executive with over 20 years of experience. He is currently the VP of Strategic Operations at Binary Defense and has held leadership roles at various companies. Robert has also had a parallel career as a magician, allowing him to communicate complex strategies engagingly. Please hold your questions to the end, and then once you are done with the session and all the questions, have a lot of questions, please. Love audience participation. Please go and get your passport stamped and turn them into the raffle by registration. So please welcome Robert to the stage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The firewall. Not meant to be funny, but I'll take it. It's the fortress of our digital realm. It stands as the mighty guardian, repelling the advances of the adversary, keeping our precious data safe and secure. But what happens if the adversary employs a different tactic? One that bypasses a firewall. Social engineering, the art of manipulating people, can render the firewall powerless. Matter of fact, social engineering can make it seem as if the firewall never even existed. Ta-da! Speaking of CISOs, do you know what a CISO's two biggest cybersecurity concerns are? It's everyone that works at the company and everyone who doesn't. It's funny because it's true. It's also sad because it's true. The year was 2015. The event, DEF CON 23. Dave Kennedy, the founder of Binary Defense and TrustedSec, was giving a lecture titled Understanding End-User Attacks. This was the first slide in his presentation. One thing's certain, this slide has stood the test of time, just as accurate today as it was 9 years ago. But how can that be? How, after all these years, is the end user still the easiest route in? I think it comes down to three things. Number one, the human mind is full of vulnerabilities, easy to exploit, yet difficult to patch. Two, we've all but relegated security awareness training to an onboarding exercise, and then once a year on our work anniversary to ensure compliance. Now, I shouldn't have to tell anyone in this audience, but compliance does not equal security. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. As a mentalist, it's my job to know what you're thinking. Some of you are thinking, well, Robert, you failed to mention October, an entire month dedicated to security awareness training. 1 month out of the entire year for the easiest route in? Come on. And number three, we haven't changed our approach on how we're delivering end-user training to the end users at our company. What we're doing, it's clearly not working, and yet we keep doing it. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. Friends and colleagues, we got to stop the insanity. In this lecture, we're going to explore how the adversary uses manipulation and magic to mislead you. I'm going to share some tips, tricks, and techniques on how you can patch, or at least put in some compensating controls for the mind's natural vulnerabilities so that you're less likely to fall victim to social engineering attacks. And then finally, a call to action on how we can start to solve this problem once and for all. Now, that's a lot of material to cover in the short amount of time that we have together this afternoon. So how are we going to do it? We're going to do it through a lecture that's immersive with audio, video, and even some tactile elements. We're going to do it through a lecture that's interactive. There is no fourth wall. I'm going to be coming down and working with some of you right where you're sitting. In a moment, I'm going to have a couple of you come right here in the center aisle with the microphone. And maybe, at the end, one of you will join me up on stage. Now, for those of you who are crowding in the back to avoid the interactive piece of this lecture, I see you. But all kidding aside, this is an interactive lecture. And if I select you, I want you to know this. I will not say or do anything to embarrass you. You have my word. Matter of fact, those of you that assist me, you're going to be the real stars of this lecture. And then last but not least, to ensure I meet the guidelines of HUSECCON's lecture presentations and to ensure that you get any continuing education credits that may be coming to you, this lecture is going to be informative. And if you don't like the information I'm putting out, just enjoy the magic. I have two passions in life. My first passion is magic. I've been studying, practicing, rehearsing, and performing magic for over 40 years. Magic is my life. My second passion is cybersecurity, specifically defensive operations, and I've been in the field of cybersecurity for nearly 20 years. Cybersecurity is my mission. Several years ago, my two passions converged, and with that convergence, I started to notice some uncanny similarities between the adversary and the magician. For example, the adversary uses TTPs, tools, techniques, and procedures. The magician uses TTPs, tools, techniques, and procedures. The adversary relies on social engineering, psychology, misdirection, a sense of urgency and chaos to deceive you. The magician relies on social engineering, psychology, misdirection, chaos, and a sense of urgency to deceive you. But that's where the similarities end, because the adversary is going to deceive you for malicious purposes, whereas the magician is going to deceive you for delicious purposes. And the danger comes when somebody can combine both and make the very malicious look delicious and tempting and irresistible. Now let me put all that into perspective. As a magician, I can go to a magic show and it's unlikely, not impossible, but it's unlikely that I'm going to be fooled. As a network defender, it's unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely that I'm going to fall victim to a social engineering attack. Why? Because I'm trained in both disciplines. Everyone in this audience is trained in cyber. So it is unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely you're going to fall victim to a social engineering attack. However, if you were to go to a magic show, you're going to be fooled. Matter of fact, I'm going to fool most, if not all of you this afternoon. Now, with all this in mind, should we be shocked when a user in our company who isn't trained in either discipline opens an email, clicks on a link, or opens a malicious attachment? No, because the human mind is full of vulnerabilities, easy to exploit, yet difficult to patch. I'm going to conduct an exercise here, so I'd like to direct your attention to the screen. Now, if you've seen this before, or if you figure it out, keep it to yourself. Don't ruin it for your colleagues. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. By a show of hands, how many of you found the mistake? About 8 or 9, maybe 10. That's about normal. For those of you who did not find the mistake, here is the mistake. I told you I was going to fool most, if not all of you, and we're just getting started. Let's talk about what makes this thing so effective. There's 3 techniques at play. The first is misdirection. Your eyes were drawn to that red bold URL where you perceived the problem to be. There was a sense of urgency. I started the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then finally, chaos. This was an unplanned exercise. I gave you limited instructions, caught most, if not all of you, off guard. These are the same 3 techniques that you can find in almost every phishing email, resulting in the victim only realizing they're a victim after the fact. Now, here's a tip for you. It's something you can take back to your friends and family, and most importantly, take it back to the end users at your company. If you find yourself looking at a text message or an email, and it's asking you to take action, and there's a sense of urgency attached to it, wind your watch. Wind your watch is advice flight instructors have been handing down to student pilots for generations. If the plane is going down, the first thing you should do is wind your watch, meaning take some time to assess the situation so that you can act and not react, which could potentially make the problem worse. Now, here's a timely and extremely relevant example of wind your watch in practice. When I was putting this lecture together, I was working with a member from our marketing team. I walked her through the exercise. She did not find the mistake. I then explained the premise of wind your watch, which she found clever. 2 weeks later, that email was in her inbox. Now, for her, it was a chaotic day. It was already lunchtime. She was in back-to-back meetings, had yet been able to check her email. So she decided to eat lunch at her desk, and as she was working her way through the email, she came to this one. And just as she was about to click on that re-authenticate hyperlink, she remembered to wind her watch. She took her hand off the mouse, sat back in her chair, and took another look at that email, and almost immediately found the mistake. Then, scanning through the rest of the email, she found the misdirection and the sense of urgency. Instead of becoming a victim that day, she became the hero, notifying our internal security team so they could take the appropriate actions to protect the rest of the organization. If you only take one thing from this lecture today, take this. Wind your watch. Now, I'm going to direct your attention back to the screen, this time to watch a short video. It's about 40 seconds long.
Put your hand just down here, just like that. Just put this one in here. This is very tight.
Early this year, I was in Amelia Island, Florida for my company's annual sales kickoff. It was the night before the event, and a bunch of us had gone out to dinner where I was asked to perform magic for a new employee. That was the effect. Now, after the camera went off, she asked me a question that I've been asked thousands, if not 10,000 times. That's right, how did you do that? I gave her the answer I always give. I did it pretty well, thank you. But then she did something that has never happened to me before. She pulled out her phone and said, "I'm going to look it up." Caught off guard, slightly panicked, I said the first thing that came to my mind. And it's something that my magic teacher, the late Eugene Berger, would say. Magic isn't a puzzle to be solved, but rather a mystery to be experienced. It worked. She put her phone away, and we ordered dessert. Now, let's not kid ourselves. When she got back to the hotel room, I'm pretty sure she looked it up. But that interaction sat rent-free in my head for about 2 weeks until one day I asked her, what prompted you to want to look that up? She said, "I thought I was going to see a cheesy magic trick and I was going to figure it out. And then you blew me away. And I don't like to be fooled. And so I wanted to look it up." It was like a game to her, and that's when I had my eureka moment. What if? What if the end users in our company had that same reaction when they were successfully phished? What if the first question of their mouth was, how did they do it? How did the adversary fool me? Immediately followed by them getting online and looking it up. This would be a game changer in how we're delivering awareness training to the end users in our organization. How do we do it? We gamify the training to solidify the learning. Gamify to solidify. Now, I've heard social engineering and mentalism both described as the art of getting inside your head. I know this to be true and accurate, and to prove it to you, we're going to conduct an experiment. Catch. Hold it up. Do you know the suits and the value of the playing cards? Come up here. You'll get a big round of applause for helping. And you're welcome to keep that Frisbee, but I know there's a lot of swag out there, and I don't know if Frisbee outdoes some of those things. Your name?
Gary.
Garrett?
Gary.
Gary. Gary, where are you from?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Well, we're practically neighbors. My name is Robert, and I'm from Maryland.
Oh.
Now, Gary, we haven't met before, have we?
No.
You seem quite pleased about that. Gary, people often ask me, how does magic happen? Well, it happens in the imagination, and you look like you have a great imagination. So I want you to imagine that the 4 cards in my hand are the 4 queens. I'm going to pull 2 queens out of the same color. And Gary, I want you to tell your peers, did I pull out the red queens or the black queens? Go ahead. Tell them.
Black queens.
Absolutely correct. We don't even need those anymore. Gary, that leaves the 2 red queens. I'm going to reach in and pull one of those red queens out. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to put it face up in this stack of cards. Gary, I want you to tell your peers, did I pull out the heart or the diamond and put it face up?
The heart.
Absolutely correct. And you don't believe me. But Gary, the Queen of Hearts is the only face-up card in the deck. But I don't want you to think I was using any sleight of hand. So I took your red Queen of Hearts from a different colored deck. Sorry, no solo clapping, whoever that was. Gary, I knew you were going to choose this card. Certain. I didn't bring any other queens with me today. So, it appeared that Gary was in complete control of his decision-making process. But was he? Let's talk about the tools, the techniques, and the procedures that made that effect so effective. The tools, 4 oversized playing cards. The techniques, 3 of them. The first was some nonverbal communication. Number 2, some psychological manipulation. And number 3, some linguistic deception. These are the same 3 techniques that happen in almost every social engineering attack that happens by the telephone. I've listened to hundreds of them, and you can find all 3 of those techniques. Now, as for the procedures, unsurprisingly to me, they align perfectly with the social engineering life cycle. Recon. I tossed a Frisbee out into the audience. Gary caught it. I asked him if he knew the suits and the value of the playing cards. Gary then joined me up here, and we started to build the relationship. I asked him where he was from, introduced myself, could tell he was a little nervous, made a great little joke, saw his body language change, and we got right into the play. I started asking him questions, getting him to tell me exactly what I wanted to hear. And then we get into the exit. I brought the effect to its natural conclusion, covered my tracks, actions on objective, complete. It is uncanny, the similarities between the magician and the adversary. Now, once again, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen. This time, we're going to watch a slightly longer video. This one's about 90 seconds. All you have to do is follow the narrator's instructions.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events.
There's a lot going on in that video. You were asked to count the number of times that the team in white passed the ball. The correct answer was 16. A gorilla came in from the left side of the screen, got right in the middle of the ball passing, beat its chest, and exit to the right of the screen. A player on the black team left the game, and the curtain changed from red to gold. If you miss any one of those things, raise your hand. Almost everybody in this room. You want to know how that works? It exploits the mind's inability to multitask, and I don't care what anybody tells me after the lecture, it is impossible to multitask. Well, let me change that. It's impossible to multitask good, and that's what that takes advantage of. There's several techniques at play there. The first was misdirection. Not just any misdirection, two-stage misdirection. Some of you, I could hear the little laughter. You've seen the older version of this where the gorilla comes in. That's the first stage misdirection. If you hadn't seen this before and you were actually counting the balls, you probably missed the gorilla. Those who have seen it before and saw the gorilla and was watching the gorilla patting herself on the back, that's the second stage misdirection. That's when the player in the black team left, and that's when the curtain changed from red to gold. But what I really like about that video is that quote at the end. If you're looking for the gorilla, you're often going to miss other unexpected events. And for me, the gorilla represents the old telltale signs of a phishing email. You know, the weird salutation, the formatting issues, the grammar, the spelling, all those things were super easy to pick out. With generative AI, not so much. So if you're reviewing an email and you want to determine if it's malicious and you're looking for the gorilla, you're going to miss those other unexpected things that make that email malicious. Now, I'm going to do something that the adversary and the magician would never do. I'm going to tell you up front the tools, the techniques, and the procedures of how I'm going to accomplish this next piece of mentalism. Tools: a deck of playing cards and 3 rubber bands. Techniques: just one. My favorite: misdirection. And as for the procedures, well, let's discuss those as we get through this experiment. I remove the cards from the box. I put not one, not 2, but 3 rubber bands around this deck. Because in a moment, we're going to be tossing this deck back and forth. And I have learned from doing thousands of shows, a lot of them with drunk people, that if I don't have the rubber bands on the card, somebody's bound to drop the deck and it slows up the whole show. Now, I'm going to come down into the audience, and if I pick you, you're going to take the deck of cards, I'm going to toss it to you, you're going to place it on the palm of your hand. You're going to have to get very comfortable here, because then you have to generate some telepathic energy. And then you're going to peek at one card, break the deck, peek at one card, lock that card in your mind. Now, to speed things up, because I do want to have some time for Q&A, I'm going to ask if you know the suits and the value of the playing card, just raise your hand and keep it up. You can do this right from your seat, So I'm going to come down. This is that fourth wall again being broken here. Let me see. You know the suits and the value of the cards? Here, stand up. Your name? Kathy. Kathy? Hey, Catherine, right here. You can stay right there. We'll try not to hit this guy with the cards. Ready? Place the cards on the palm of your hand. Generate some telepathic energy. 1, 2, 3. Take a look at one card. Break the deck. You got it? Toss the deck back to me. Excellent. Hands up, hands up. You know this. You're a little too excited. Let me think about it. Right there. Here you go. Ready? Your name? Jeff. Jeff, here you go. Stand up. Put the cards on the palm of your hand. Jeff, generate some psychic energy. 1, 2, 3. Professional. Peek at one card, toss the deck back to me. And we'll get one person over here. You know the suits of the cards. Your name, sir? Daniel, ready? There we go. On the palm of your hand, Daniel. 1, 2. That's good. 3. Take a peek at one card, lock it in your mind, toss the deck back to me. Let me get back up here. All right, I decided to go with you. Carl, don't let me down. Carl, stand up. Put the cards on the palm of your hand. Generate some psychic energy. 1, 2, 3. That's the Kreskin method, I know that. Got one? Toss the deck back to me. It's okay. It's not your fault. It's my fault. I picked you. Just a little joke I tell every time, Carl. If you looked at a card, I want you to stand up right where you're sitting. Stand up right in front of your chair. If you looked at a card, stand up right in front of your chair. I want each one of you to imagine that you're sitting in a movie theater. The lights go down, the screen illuminates, and projected onto that screen is your card. I want you to see the color. I want you to see the value. I want you to see the suit. Color, value, and suit. Now, I want you four to close your eyes. Keep them closed. Now I want you to see that card on the movie screen and project it into your mind's eye. That's that piece of mind right between your eyes. Project it up there so I can receive it. Color, value, suit. Color, value, suit. Eyes closed. Project, color, value, suit. 7 of clubs, 6 of diamonds, Jack of spades, Queen of hearts. If I named your card, take a seat. Thank you. I have a confession to make. The only misdirection I used in that effect was the fact that I told you I was going to use misdirection. I deceived you. And with that deceit, I also exploited your trust. But unlike the adversary who's going to deceive you and exploit your trust for malicious purposes, I, the mentalist, deceived you and exploited your trust for delicious purposes. Now, trust is the vulnerability I hate the most, because trust isn't only a vulnerability of the mind, it's also a vulnerability of the heart, which makes it easy to exploit, nearly impossible to patch. You see trust being exploited in romance scams. Text messages from your CEO asking you to get him some Amazon gift cards. And unfortunately, you even see it in charity scams. Now look, there is a way to patch the vulnerability of trust. You have to stop trusting people, but you don't have to become cynical. I would like to offer you up a compensating control. You can still trust people, but you have to verify. Trust, but verify. Now, a couple of years ago, I was in Washington, D.C. for a cybersecurity networking event, and I was talking with this person who was the senior director of a security operations center for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. She was telling me that they had recently moved into a new facility and they had this beautiful SOC. She pulled out her phone, started going through the pictures, and it was gorgeous. In one of the photos, I noticed there were some pictures of people on the back wall with little name placards on there. So I asked her, are those members of your team? She said no. Those were employees at her company who had fell victim to a phishing attack. It was a wall of shame. Now, on my way home that night, I was thinking about what I had seen, and I became very uneasy because I realized I was guilty of the very same thing. That wall of shame story forever changed the way I look at people who fall victim to social engineering attacks. I see them for what they are. They're victims of a crime, and we shouldn't be shaming them. Our jobs as professionals is to come up alongside those people, comfort them, reassure them, but most importantly, educate them. Educate, don't humiliate. Now, I'm going to step out of the cyber lecture role, and I want to share with you a piece of mentalism that I've been performing in my show for the last 15 or 20 years. But I feel like I should give you my theatrical mentalism disclaimer because I believe what I'm about to show you will be the closest thing to actual telepathy you'll ever witness. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Robert Willis, and I'm a fake. That's the real reason Lincoln was shot in the theater, by the way. At least that's what some of you are going to say about me when I'm finished. The rest of you, you're going to believe what I do is real. I need two people. And if you get a Frisbee and you want to keep it, just see me after the presentation. I'll give you the little cases for it. Try to get somebody over here, catch, and we'll get one more person over there. It's like Moses parting the Red Sea there for a second. Who's got the Frisbee? You got the Frisbee? One other person, you got the Frisbee? Join me up on stage. No? Toss it to somebody else then, that's fine. That girl in the black is really wanting to get up on stage. Let's go, you got it, come on. Give them a round of applause. Jackie. Hello, right here, right here. You want to keep this or no? It's a lot of swag. I'll give you the little thing. You can keep yours too. Your name?
Kirby.
Kirby. Nice to meet you, Kirby. Your name?
Chelsea.
Chelsea. Chelsea, we haven't met before, have we?
Nope.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. All right. I need one microphone for them. I have a book for you and a book for you, and I'll give this to you right when you're ready for it. Now, we're going to try something with you first, okay? I'm going to take the book. I'm going to flip through the pages, and you're going to tell me when to stop. When you say stop, I want you to look at the first word on this page. Are you ready? Okay, you want to practice once? You good? You're good. Yeah. Professional. Right here? Okay. I want you to lock that word in your mind's eye. I want you to see it on the movie screen. Sometimes I get images, sometimes I get letters. I'm getting a letter. It's almost, maybe I'm getting the mirror image. Is the first letter an H? Out loud, tell them the word that you were looking at.
Hi, H-I-G-H.
That's it. Hi, H-I-G-H. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. I saw it in the reflection of your glasses. But I did that to prove a point because her and I have something really amazing we're about to do. Let's give him a round of applause. Now, you don't have glasses, nor am I going to touch that book. I just want you to open that book to any page you want. You're looking at 2 pages, and look, I'm begging of you, do not pick a small word, because after the lecture, somebody's going to go, well, she picked a big word, you'd never have got it. So don't pick anything like high. I want you to find a big word, multiple syllables, the longer the better. And if you don't find one on the page there, you don't like what's on those pages, go to another page. But when you're done, shut the book. You need glasses? Here, I'm going to wind my watch. You're doing fantastic. Just find a big word. Do you want me to sub somebody in for you? It's okay. Okay, you got one? You're doing great. You got a big word? Multiple syllables?
I hope it's big enough.
Multiple syllables?
I think so.
Okay, shut the book. You can set the book down and pick up the microphone. Now, I want you to imagine you're sitting in a movie theater. The lights go down, the screen comes up, and projected onto that screen is your word. Again, sometimes I get letters, sometimes I get imagery. Project it for me. I'm actually getting some imagery, and so all I want you to do is say yes or no. The imagery I'm getting starts with the letter S. Does your word start with the letter S?
No.
No. Okay, that's fine. That's the imagery. Just nothing else. Just say the first letter of your word, and I'll tell you the imagery I'm getting, and you'll say yes or no. Does it make sense? What is the first letter of your word?
Hang.
The first letter.
H.
H. Okay. I can see the letter. Continue sending me the letters. Because the imagery I'm getting is a square, like a pocket square. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm thinking of a square.
Third letter. That swapped. I got it. I got it. I think I got it. This is unbelievable. Now, I don't always get it. I may not have gotten it this time. Sometimes I'm wrong. But out loud, for everyone to hear, tell them the word you were thinking of.
Handkerchief.
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 Remember when I said sometimes I get it wrong? Now's not one of those times. Take a bow. Give her a round of applause. You can take the seat. Thank you. Well done. Well done. By a show of hands, how many of you would like to know how I did that? Well, that's not going to happen. But I want you to think about the way you feel right now. The excitement, the curiosity, the appreciation for what you just witnessed. Let those feelings sink in, because you need that same excitement, that same curiosity, that same appreciation for what the adversary is doing. Because those are the feelings and the emotions that will really drive you to want to learn and self-educate. And if you can learn how the adversary operates, you'll be less likely to fall victim to social engineering attacks. The way we're delivering end user training to the end users in our organization isn't working. but we keep doing it over and over. They say the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. We got to stop the insanity. Over the next several months, take a hard look at your social engineering program. I'm sorry, your security awareness training program. If you're doing social engineering, you're in the wrong lecture. But take a look at your security awareness training programs. Find ways to make it more immersive, more interactive, more informative. Apply this over the next several months. Wind your watch is advice that flight instructors have been handing down to student pilots for generations. If you have an in-flight emergency, the plane is going down, the first thing you should do is take a few seconds, even if that's all the time you have, to assess the situation so that you can act and not react, which could potentially make the problem worse. If you only take one thing from this lecture, this is it. Wind your watch. I showed you the video of me performing the red ball effect for a coworker and how we had that awkward interaction and how that led to my eureka moment. If we could find a way to gamify security awareness training, we could solidify the learning. So over the next several months, take a look at your security awareness program, find a vendor that can do it for you, make it happen. Trust but verify. Trust is a vulnerability that I hate the most, not only of the mind, but also of the heart. Nearly impossible to patch. So I gave you that compensating control. You can still trust people, just have to verify. That wall of shame story forever changed the way I look at people who fall victim to social engineering. I now see them for what they are. They're victims of a crime. Our job is to come up alongside them, comfort them, reassure them, and educate them. Educate, don't humiliate. Apply that immediately. And then finally, there's a call to action on how we can start to solve this problem once and for all. You all have to get out there and create some security awareness magic in your organizations. Now, as I was putting this together, I said, well, what kind of magician would I be if I told them to go out and create security awareness magic, but I didn't give them a magic word or phrase? You know the magic words and phrases uttered by magicians in the course of conjuring. Abracadabra, hocus pocus, alakazam, open sesame. My personal favorite, I summoned you, Dark Lord of Magic. But I came up with a magic word for you, and it's cybercadabra. But then, as I was patting myself on the back, I said to myself, self, what kind of magician would you be if you gave them a magic word and didn't show them how to use it? Well, I'd be a crummy magician. So I'm going to show you how to use it. And I need just a couple of things here. I need this and this. Remember our old friend, the firewall? How'd that get in there? I'm going to count to 3. And on 3, you're all going to say, in unison, with conviction, and loud enough so that lecture across the hall, everybody will turn their head to the right and go, what the hell is going on over there? If you do that, we will send the firewall back to where it belongs. Ready? I feel like we should practice this once. Practice. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, maybe a little bit louder, but let's knock it out of the park. I'm at the end of my time here. 1, we're going to send the firewall back to where it belongs. 2, 3. Remember, only you can prevent social engineering. Any time for questions? Yeah.
Does anyone have time? Well, we have time for questions. Does anybody have one? Oh, besides, how did you do the tricks? Okay, over here.
I did it pretty well, thank you.
So the trick with the cards and the queen, hypothetically, if he had chosen a different card, what would you have done?
He wasn't going to be able to choose the other card.
Okay.
Any other questions? Up here, okay.
I really like your approach on cyber awareness, and I'm wondering, were you employed how do you look at cyber awareness? What do you do?
So I work for a cybersecurity company, and everybody there is practitioners. We have some small groups like accounting and stuff, so we can put a lot of emphasis and resources into that. But cybersecurity training is happening every week at the company I work at. It's the easiest route in. Next year, I'm doing a lecture on perception. I'm going to talk about tools. We keep putting all our faith in tools. Now, don't get me wrong, tools have a place, but they're not a replacement for training the end user, which is still the easiest route in. It's got to be consistent, it's got to be well structured, and you've got to get the people really enjoying what they're doing so they'll do it on their own. How do I what?
Make it fun.
Oh, I do all kinds of stuff.
There's one more question up the back.
So the question I've got is, how do you, it's beyond making it fun, but how do you create a culture so that you, or change the culture so that you don't shame, or how do we do it as professionals to change the security culture from shaming to education and helping people? What do you see as the key secret ingredient?
It actually has to probably start from the top and work its way into the company's culture. But the other thing is that just get people to think about it for what it is. It's not somebody who fell for a phishing attack. They're a victim of a crime. And nobody would shame a victim of a robbery. That's basically what's happening. You just got to see it in a different perspective. I know there's a lot of great memes out there and people have the walls of shame and stuff. Those days are over because there was a big breach in Las Vegas. I can't mention the casino, but those were IT people that were breached, right? So it can happen to anybody. It's a culture thing.
Any other? Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you're approaching somebody who has been a victim and you're trying not to shame, how would you describe your personal tone that you're going for?
Yeah, just reassuring them that it happens to everybody because it can. And then I just try to get them to understand that they got to slow down because everybody's moving quickly. So I talk about wind your watch. You don't have to respond to every Microsoft email that needs you to re-authenticate your O365. And it's really just consistency and giving that message and just letting people know that they didn't do anything wrong. They were just fooled, right? And give them tips and ideas of how to identify some of those things, or at least ask the right questions if they have a question around what they're seeing or what they need to do.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, down here somewhere. Okay. Hello, sir.
A comment for you to respond to, because the essence of all of this can also apply to a phone call. The complication for the person receiving the call is that as soon as that hacker gets a few words of your voice, they can extend that manipulation to calling somebody else as if it were you and extending the whole problem sequence.
Yeah, so it's basically AI. They're using an AI to mimic the voice. Look, we have to figure that out. I don't know where I stand on it. My gut tells me we probably have to have some regulations around that because it could get really bad really fast. We're actually working a case at my company where there was some AI used to mimic the CEO's voice, and it was very realistic. And they got lucky because the CEO was out of the office, and they couldn't figure out why he was sending emails when he's supposed to be out of the office. And that's kind of, they caught on that there was something fishy, no pun intended, going on there.
Anyone else? Oh, hi.
So what do you do for the repeat offenders who, no matter how hard you train, still click the link every month?
Yeah, look, I think, look, I'm a big, I'm a carrot rather than a stick guy, but you got to have the stick sometimes because that inability to, and it's probably just laziness and not thinking about it, to be honest with you. Sometimes you need the stick. Those people are putting your company at risk. No, the wall of shame is something different. That's humiliating people. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time.